and the other way. Okay, connecting the waist to movement, which is a big part of this. Hands over the head, turn the waist, settle the arms. As the hands come to the bottom, turn your trunk and raise the arms. So you're going to try and get these arm circles by turning through your trunk. Good. Then we're going to reverse. So up the sides, change the trunk down. Now, don't let this become a knee and ankle exercise. Some people kind of rotate from their knees and ankles. Try to stabilize your knee and ankle and work through your hip and your spine, pelvis and your spine. Okay, arms from side to side. These are the two major trajectories of using the spine, where we can either create movement on a horizontal plane, or we want to be able to use rotations to create movement on this more vertical plane, and then everything in between becomes our diagonals. So even our straight line technique. So what I'm going to get you to do for a moment to work on waist, because we're loosening up right here, is think about sitting in one hip and pointing with the opposite finger. It's like, hey, you. Yeah, you over there. So you're turning and you're reaching. So what we want to get away from, and one of the things I spend a lot of time coaching, is throwing punches while keeping the body still and throwing from the shoulder. What we want to be able to do is throw from the center of the body and pushing through the ground. So push with your left leg, reach with your left arm. Push with your right leg, reach with your right arm. But don't start the movement with your arm. So you can just kind of swing this back and forth. Now you could take that point to a fist. So you could just think about reaching out with those middle knuckles a little bit, but notice how it's still going to be a rotation of the waist. You could turn that into a palm. Good. You know, you could turn that into a little more horizontal and you could get some elbows. But notice how we're not changing what the waist is doing. We're just turning, turn in the hip, sit in the hip, turn through the spine. If you want to take that to a bit more of a vertical, you know, you can just think about pumping your elbows up into that space. Now notice that the engine hasn't changed. What's changing is how we're articulating it through the joints of the arm and into the technique. So now we could go rising on one arm and cross on the other. But notice how it's still the same turning of the waist. Maybe when we want to bring something from over top and down, turning of the waist, sinking in the legs. Now we're looking at hammer fist down. Those people working on the mantis work, we've been doing a lot of this kind of hammering and pounding down. But notice how I haven't changed the shape of what the engine's doing. Turn, turn. I want to turn this into something slashing. So I'm coming across. So I'm turning and I'm pushing through. So that same shifting, but now what's happening is I'm starting to use the opposite hip. So now I'm pushing from my left hip out into my right arm and turning the waist. So now I'm slashing. Now that could turn into slashing with both arms. So this is a good coordination drill. Palm up, palm down, palm up, down, palm down. So you're turning. Feel this in the abdominals. Feel this through the lower back. Stable in the legs. We're always wanting to frame the legs as our root and our stability. We want to turn that into downwards following diagonals. 1, 2, 3, 4. We see this a lot when we get double weapon techniques. Cut, 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 cut. But this is also hammers at different angles. But notice, again, what we're doing is we're sitting in those hips. We're shifting weight in the hips. We're turning through the spine, and we're releasing that out to the arms. So a good challenge is to start switching between some of these different techniques while not losing the rhythm. So if you got yourself a rhythm of sit in the hip, turn the waist, twist, 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 twist. What kind of things can you produce from that? Two hands together, hands separate, one guarding, one punching, right? There's all sorts of different ways that you could start to coordinate this up. That means with the same internal motion, you can attack from multiple angles. Let's think about how to turn this into our uppercuts. This is an I Chuan exercise for building this rotation called the ball rolling exercise. But notice how the engine hasn't changed. I'm still sitting, turning, sitting, turning, sitting, turning, sitting, turning, and I can now produce uppercuts from here. Right? One side, other side. Now, the hip and the waist in this case, we're going to be working them unified, hip and waist kind of working together. Now, there is also going to be times where we can sit and fix the hip and work it off of one side or work it off the other. So the waist is doing most of the work, but right now we're traveling from side to side. Now, if we want to turn this into things like hooks, we're rolling, we're coming out. Now, Kung Fu tends to work a nice kind of whipping hook, work on that for a while. But notice how, again, I'm just turning the waist, turning in the hips, and now I'm allowing that. So you can tighten your hooks. So with hook punching, Sensei Walther's always taught us there's palm out, there's palm down, there's palm in. And those kind of cover three ranges. Longer range is that palm out. Sometimes this is actually about cutting back and hitting to the base of the skull. So we've got long, then we have this kind of medium here with the palm down, and then in tight, and the palm faces in towards you. So palm out, palm down, palm in. So keep that engine rolling, and now integrate uppercuts, hook punches, different levels, different heights, different hand positions. Good. Uppercuts, hooks. Let's talk about overhand strikes. So we've got straight punches, but we also have these kind of overhand. We're coming down and in, quite often right across the side of the jaw. So now we're taking a circle this way. So we had an I Chuan circle that was rolling this way to create our uppercuts, kind of this from the hip out. Now roll that circle the opposite way. And now you've got things like your overhands coming down on top. This is also what's going to create some of those chopping, slicing motions, is being able to integrate this kind of turning of the waist. This can turn into elbows. This can turn into your downwards elbows, where you're rolling the inside and pounding down on top. But again, everything has come from waist, hips, spine, and out to the limbs. So I'm going to look at the clock here. We're going to go for about 1.5 minutes with this technique, but I want you to keep switching through different ways of changing this torque from the spine and this pressure against the ground with your legs into different angles of striking. So we're not even changing, we're not even putting footwork in right now. We're just working. Okay, so looking at the clock here, we've got about 1.5 minutes or so to play. So think about going between some of those. It's going to feel awkward at first, but try to keep your rhythm for now. It's a drill. Try to keep your rhythm, right, left, right, left. Let that work its way out through the center. The center is directing what's going to happen. It's turning the spine, and the shoulders and the arms get a chance to work through that pattern in lots of different ways. This will end up being your parries and your deflections. Everything's going to have to pass through the framework of that trunk. Okay, you've got 30 seconds left. That's it. You can pick up the speed. You can come at different angles. You can get those hooks. You can get those uppercuts. You can get the straight punches. You can get those hammers. You can get cross elbows, diagonal dropping elbows, rising elbows, back, hammer fist striking. There's lots of different things, but we're gonna get that core. Should be really starting to feel that core has been working. That core has been working from side to side. Okay, 10 seconds. That's it. Okay, and come on up. Good. Okay, let's do some base leg strength. This is something we were talking about in the Tai Chi class this morning.